Welcome to the fourth episode of the Driller Newscast. I'm Brock Yorty, and this week we'll cover current news on the EPA beyond PFAS that impacts our industry. Our featured story of the week is on the long-awaited infrastructure bill, and more importantly, the funds available that will create work in the drilling industry. But first, let's have that safety meeting and kick the day off right. Now that we've wrapped our first full week of spring, I believe it's appropriate to talk lightning safety. Last year, there were 10 fatalities from lightning. In the past 10 years, there's been 285 people who have died in lightning strikes, with 90% of those fatalities being male. So a sad story last August in Wisconsin. Two construction workers, a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old male, were struck by lightning. The 60-year-old died on site. The entire construction crew had stopped working and took proper shelter during the storm. Then they believed the storm had passed and started working again when the two were struck. What is your company's lightning safety policy? Just like last week's topic, we have to have a written action plan. OSHA states we have to have an action plan. They suggest the 30-30 rule. If it takes less than 30 seconds to hear thunder and see lightning flash, it's near enough to pose a threat. After the storm, we wait 30 minutes before we start working outside again. However, I don't think that's enough. 30 seconds is 6 miles away. If we take the NCAA policy or many of the major sporting events policies, they state if it's within 8 miles away, we hear thunder, we see lightning, we wait 30 minutes. And then NCAA goes even further to say 30 minutes and the last strike of lightning is at least 6 miles moving away. In a drilling site with complex tasks, a storm is moving so fast. Can we really wrap it up in time? Get tooling off bottom, maintain circulation, look at what the storm looks like, and move from there? I think the best approach is to consider if we can hear thunder, see lightning, regardless of the distance, or 10 miles out, it's time to start wrapping up work. And when it hits 8 miles out, we need to seek shelter. And that OSHA policy states that we have to have good shelter. That's not under a tree or a lean-to. That's in a structure that's safe or in a rubber-tired vehicle with the windows rolled up. We have to adhere to this. It's tragic to believe how many people have been struck and killed by lightning in the last 10 years. So the next time you hear or you see that flash, what is your plan? We're on complex projects, we need to wrap up, and we can't afford to lose any of you. Be safe out there and respect lightning. Use your mobile phone. Look at the National Weather Service app. Look at any of the weather apps that will state how far away lightning is striking. We need to respect the technology we have or move farther and get a lightning policy in place that has technology on site that is showing true lightning strikes in our area. It's up to us to be better at respecting lightning and preventing this amount of fatalities to continue. Be safe out there. Last week we discussed PFAS and the EPA's slow but methodical reaction to setting a standard. This got me to reflect upon our discussion last week, and the fact is the Environmental Protection Agency is working on investigations, Superfund sites, action plans for many projects throughout the country. In mid-March, they released findings on 3 new river Superfund sites in Spokane, Washington, on a section of the Columbia River, Trenton, New Jersey on a section of the Hackensack River, and in Massachusetts on the Neponset River. Furthermore, they have active work on mine sites, nuclear sites, and infrastructure projects throughout the country. I believe it's important to consider before the Cuyahoga River caught on fire in Ohio and the Love Canal incident, the EPA did not exist. You know, Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, was published in 1962, and it took the space program with astronauts photoing and observing humans' impact on the environment from space along with a river catching on fire for Nixon to implement the EPA. Right now, as we look into the news, we can see that they're working on funding projects for California reservoirs, that they are looking at nuclear site cleanup in Missouri. Central Indiana, they're working on coal ash contamination, which is impacting groundwater. The EPA has a lot going on, and we should thank them. We should do a little bit more research and see how and what policies are going in effect and what's working and what industries are working against them and how we can support them. Because again, if we're not good stewards of the environment, we're not going to have good, clean water to be able to provide. And when we hit 2050 and the global water crisis hits bigger than ever, we're going to need as much clean water as possible. And it's all our responsibility. So I think it's important for us to step back sometimes when we're upset about policy and how long it's taking, and understanding there's a lot of research that goes into it, including, if I go back to thinking about when I read Silent Spring in college, Michigan State University, just up the road from where I live, and BMP Media is officed in Lansing, Michigan, where Michigan State is. They had a huge research project, and they were showing the studies of impacts of DDT on birds and fish. So it takes some time. It takes some time for us to consider what's happening and how we can do a better job at supporting the information and doing our part to protect the environment. Hi, this is the Driller Newscast, our featured driller section, or this week, very special guest, our featured geologist, Nancy. Nancy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Brock. I'm happy to be here. My name is Nancy Pasillas, and I am in the environmental consulting and drilling industry.
How did drilling get into your blood, Nancy?
I feel a bit silly answering this question because I am not a driller, but I wish I could be. After all, you guys get to play in the mud. But all joking aside, I know you guys don't actually play in the mud. I actually have a lot of respect for our drillers because I know they're the ones that are out there working really long hours in the elements, putting out fires left and right. And we couldn't do what we do without our drillers. They're the first step for any type of intrusive field work that we do. And without them, we couldn't discover and answer all the questions that we need to, do our jobs.
I've ran into you in the field, and I truly believe you want to get up there and pull those levers and do some drilling. Is that
I
true?
do. I do, but I guess I have other skills that they rather use me for.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
Oh my gosh, I love all of it. But my absolute favorite thing is when I get to share what we do with people. These days, everyone has an opinion about everything, both good and bad. But I feel like anytime I say that, we're the liaison between industry and the environment, that accidents happen, and that is why we're here, to leave our environment better than we found it. No one can argue that. So I love telling people what I do.
What is one big lesson you've learned on the job that you'd love to share?
One big lesson that I've learned is that communication is key. We don't know what we don't know. And I know for me, one of my biggest pain points when I first started was not understanding why our drilling was going faster than the geologist could, document or do their sampling task. And it was just, it was frustrating because after all, the whole reason we're drilling is to get those samples. It wasn't until I started doing proposals that I realized that most of our drilling is actually billed by foot. So anytime you're not actively drilling, gaining footage, you're cutting into your profits. And honestly, that's all I needed to know to not sit there frustrated. We communicated, and now if we don't have to sit there and label all our vials. We don't have to do all the things that don't need to be done while drilling is happening. So just communication.
That's excellent. And don't be fooled. Us drillers, we're out there trying to figure out a way to get you muddy or overload you with way more core samples than you possibly can have in one time so we can stand on the platform and giggle like middle schoolers. And sometimes we got to be told, hey, this information, this attention to detail is very important. We got to find some better collaboration in this. So we do that on purpose sometimes.
Hey, I can never have enough core samples. So
Well, last question. You've been in this industry how long now?
2 years, not very long, but it feels like a lifetime.
What would you say to a new hire, or what would you say to brand new Nancy 2 years ago coming into this industry?
Just what I tell anyone, it doesn't matter what you're getting hired to, is to not be afraid to ask questions, especially with our drillers. I know that drilling has a reputation of being trial by fire type of mentality, but at the end of the day, I mean, we want you to succeed and we want you to be safe. No one wants to be hiring a new drilling technician every 2 to 3 months, or a new geologist every 2 to 3 months. So communicating and building those relationships, I just think not only between, drillers and drillers, or geologists and geologists, but everybody that's on staff. Me personally, even though I'm not a driller, I love it when the driller stops by my office, and I can help them in any type of way, even if it's just smiling them, asking how their project went. And then they're like, oh my God, you can't believe what happened, which is usually how it goes. Um, but yeah, just communication.
Well, thank you. And I think we should have more featured geologists, featured industry professionals. And if you would like to be on the featured industry professional or driller or geologist portion of the Driller Newscast, email questions@asbrock.com and we'll get you on here. Thanks again, Nancy. This is awesome. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, and it's always fun to get to catch up with you.
Likewise, thank you.
For our featured story, I want to talk about the new federal funds from the infrastructure bill that will be creating drilling jobs and new opportunities. We've all been anticipating this infrastructure bill for years now, and we need it for our crumbling infrastructure. We know that we're going to be involved in road building, bridges, and dam projects throughout the country. These projects are going to require us to do geotech, environmental, HDD, dewatering, piles and caissons, along with industrial drilling work to be completed and successful. Beyond that work, we have mines throughout the country that require a proper closure to prevent major impacts to our environment. In mid-March, an additional 144 million became available to states and tribes for abandoned mine land reclamation efforts. Pennsylvania received 26 million, West Virginia 18 million, and Wyoming 30 million, along with Illinois getting 9 million and Kentucky getting 8 million. Those funds are in addition to the 725 million from the infrastructure bill for 22 states to accelerate their cleaning up process of abandoned mines across the country that happened in February. Again, if we think about it, what will our business be impacted by? What projects do we need to be on the look for? And how are we going to get involved in that geotech work, that environmental investigation work, along with opportunities for whole abandonment, cementing, site remediation, and restoration? We know there's plenty of tailings ponds out there and acid runoff, and there's a lot of bad things with mines that are nearly ready to close or have been closed, and we just haven't had the funding over the years. We need to be involved in this work, and now you're aware of it. Get on to the federal department for bids. Start talking to your engineers. Engineers, start talking to your drillers. Let's all collaborate and make sure we're getting on these projects and having these opportunities to impact our environment and promote good business and whatnot. This is the wrap of episode 4 We have many more of these to come. I'm still looking for great featured stories. If you got a project, you have something exciting that has happened, you effectively drilled an artesian well that should have been much more difficult than you thought. Come on, let's talk about it. Our industry grows through sharing knowledge and inspiring the next generation. And that's what the Driller Newscast is all about. So I appreciate you starting your morning with me and the Driller. I thank BMP Media for taking this opportunity to say, yeah, we'd like to showcase all the current events that are happening throughout the country in drilling. And we're going to hit on some European events and some Latin America as those stories roll in. I still want to hear about new technologies, innovations. There's a lot of great things going on out there that we can all be involved in. So I'd like you to stay safe. It's the start of the second quarter. Everything that we thought about first quarter and those big initiatives in safety and profitability and leadership and just being better humans, let's continue it into second, third, and fourth. And thanks again. I'll see you on episode 5. Be safe, industry.